ready for the John Kasich takedown to end all John Kasich takedowns? That's right, folks. One of the mainstream media's favorite liberal Republicans, John Kasich, looks like he's planning yet another bid for the Oval Office. And this time around, he's going with a slightly newer tactic. Not only is the 65-year-old desperately pandering to millennials by talking about Justin Bieber and smartphone trivia apps, while trying to court a Democratic megadonor to his cause, he's also trying out some new messaging to distance himself from the current president.
Look, I didn't lead the Republican Party. The Republican Party left me.
I'm sure that probably resonates with several other preening bitter clingers in what's left of the Never Trump crowd. And it's a noticeable hat tip to what Reagan always said about Democrats, which was true. But is it accurate in this case? Let's just take ourselves a little stroll down memory lane to find out. Starting with immigration, back in 1995, Kasich actually co-sponsored a bill to improve deterrence of illegal immigration. The bill would have ended chain migration, implemented a more merit-based immigration system, beefed up border security, and increased penalties for illegal alien smugglers. And that sounds right about where the more conservative part of the Republican Party is these days. Kasich, however, is somewhere around here.
If the Dreamers want to go somewhere and live, come to Ohio. We want all the immigrants to come to Ohio.
He even doubled down months later, joining with Democrats on Twitter to say that Congress should pass a clean amnesty bill with absolutely no concessions for border security or immigration enforcement, and also backhandedly accused Republicans of holding illegal immigrants hostage in the process. Right. But this isn't our only 90s throwback. Kasich supported the 1993 Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Yes, this is that old bipartisan bill that prevents the government from putting undue burdens on your First Amendment rights. You know, the kind the left likes to say legalizes discrimination against gay people whenever one shows up in the state legislature? Yeah, it was passed with a sweeping bipartisan majority in both houses way back then. But only conservative Republicans have held the same line on religious liberty in the quarter century since. As for Kasich, here he is on the 2016 campaign trail when asked about whether he respected the religious freedom and property rights of business owners.
I mean, if you're in the business of commerce, conduct commerce. That's my view. And if you don't agree with their lifestyle, say a prayer for them when they leave and hope they change their behavior.
And as bad as that was, he didn't stop there. He also said that supporters of religious freedom laws at the state level, i.e. people who don't want their or other people's livelihoods destroyed by the demands of the secular left, to just get over it. That's right, folks. He went from defending religious freedom for all to telling Christians to bake the cake and get over it. Now let's give credit where credit is due. Back in his heyday as the chairman of the House Budget Committee under Speaker Newt Gingrich, John Kasich was a rock star fiscal hawk. But even that much has changed. As much as Kasich loves to talk about the fact that he turned the Buckeye State's budget around when he came into office in 2011, in reality, according to a report from the Cato Institute, he actually oversaw an 18% growth of government spending during his first few years in office. Now, why was that, you may ask? It all has to do with our next subject, Obamacare. Before the law passed and was signed into law, gubernatorial candidate Kasich campaigned against it, saying that new federal mandates will require more Medicaid spending and stick states with large and unsustainable costs. And he was right, just like we've seen play out across the country over the past few years. But after he got to the governor's mansion, his administration massively expanded Medicaid, earning the praise of the law's namesake.
You got folks like John Kasich in Ohio and Snyder in Michigan and others who are saying, you know what, this is the right thing to do. Let's go ahead and expand it.
In fact, during his tenure as governor, Kasich has become one of the biggest Obamacare defenders in the GOP, even speaking out against the vastly watered-down repeal efforts congressional Republicans considered last year.
They were just trying to fulfill a campaign promise, and I still say they should have worked with the Democrats.
They didn't do that because the Democrats didn't want to repeal Obamacare, just like Kasich didn't and still doesn't want to repeal Obamacare, despite the fact that his party has campaigned on doing so since it passed. Here's his plan instead.
We came up with a proposal to stabilize the insurance market.
Stop right there. As we pointed out multiple times before, stabilizing the insurance market is swamp code for bailing out Obamacare by throwing money at the problem and then hoping that the payoff convinces the insurance cartel to take mercy on us poor consumers who aren't on Medicaid. But that's supposedly the reasonable centrist position these days, after all. So yes, John Kasich may very well run for president and again in 2020. But let's get a few things straight. If you criticize your party because they tried to repeal a law they ran on repealing for almost a decade, one that you originally opposed because you've now flip-flopped on it, your party didn't leave you. If you've softened your beliefs on religious liberty now that it's easier to appeal to younger, more liberal voters by telling people to get over their religious beliefs, your party didn't leave you. If your party wins an election by finally listening to what its voters have demanded for years on immigration, and by campaigning on the very things that you used to support, your party didn't leave you. In reality, you just followed the failed establishment experiment of marketing watered-down progressivism to voters who never bought into it in the first place. And if you think wagging your finger and looking down your nose at voters who have the audacity to still believe in the kinds of stuff that you used to is going to get you into the Oval Office, please, go ahead. We'll go make some popcorn in the meantime. I'm Nate Madden, and this has been your Capitol Hill Brief. Thanks for tuning in.